had a video kind of in my mind, something that I was planning on doing today that I'll release for my normal time tomorrow. But as I was kind of thinking through some of the things that I wanted to say in that video, my phone blew up with a ton of notifications because the news at this moment is completely blowing up because political commentator, I guess you would say, the founder of TP USA, Turning Point USA, every news agency is showing this right now. He was doing a Turning Point rally. Charlie Kirk was doing a Turning Point rally in Utah, and he was shot. He was assassinated while he was doing this rally there. And even though I had kind of an idea for something that I wanted to talk about today, it seems like what I wanted to talk about is not necessarily... I don't even know how to respond, to be honest with you. It's a discouragement to see the things that are going on in our country. And really, the thing that I was planning on talking about today had to do with some of the discouragements about some of the things that are happening in our culture right now. They had to do with another terrible thing that happened in the news and has been in social media. A Ukrainian refugee immigrant to the country was killed, and actually, even though it's only recently shown up in the news, it was something that happened more than a couple weeks ago. It happened on August 22nd, which is hard to believe that it didn't really get reported on until now, and now it's starting to come out. But you have this horrific murder caught on video on board a like a metro in North Carolina, and it's horrible. I don't think anybody should watch it. Of course, I did see it. You've seen the pictures, you've seen the video, and it's just horrific what took place there. She's murdered in cold blood, stabbed in the neck, and she dies. And it's absolutely horrific to see something like this happen and to say, man, this is the moment that we're living in. This is the country that we're living in. And then as I'm thinking about that video and thinking about putting it together, I get all these messages. I go on social media on X and I see the videos of Charlie Kirk being assassinated, killed. I don't know Charlie. I have some close friends who know him very well, who are very close with him. But he definitely, from everything that I've seen, he's a Christian. I've seen him share the gospel and defend the faith on social media channels and videos. And yeah, he's a conservative. He's a political guy. He's very close to the current presidential administration. And so as a result of all that, he's got a lot of people who are political enemies. But it's a sad reality that we're living at such a moment that political enemies don't just debate their ideas in the public square, but take them in such a way to where you see an event like this. And this is a horrific moment. And we have no idea how the response will be from our nation. And what you have right now is you have a political conflict. You have left versus right. And it's not a good situation. And I hope that it doesn't inflame into more violence, but sadly situations like this where you have violence, they tend to bring more violence, and hopefully that's not what we see in this situation, but it certainly could be. So these are eye-opening things, and it does cause you to wonder, like, what brings us to this point where you have events like this and you have people resorting to extreme violence. And in my last video, I talked about the importance of Christians when there is this desire and this impulse for justice, that we make sure that we are moderating that with mercy. I shared Micah 6:8. He has shown you, a man, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk in humility. Those are important values. And I don't think they're only important values for Christians. These are important values for people created in the image of God, us humans. But the hard part is that when we see situations like this, the impulse is not to walk humbly, to be merciful, and to do justly ourselves, but it is to call for and want justice and to try to take vengeance into our own hands. And that was my concern, and that was what I was sharing in my video yesterday, is that we have to be careful not to take vengeance into our own hands. But when something totally ghastly like this happens, like the murder on the train in North Carolina of this Ukrainian refugee, or the murder in cold blood of a political individual, Charlie Kirk in this case, when these sorts of things happen, it reminds me of the passage in the book of Judges having to do with the concubine of the Levite, the Levite's concubine. It's a horrific story. It's probably one of the most disturbing stories in the Bible in the latter chapters of Judges, that this Levite, he is in a town where the people are not obviously very hospitable, and they try to assault him. It seems from the text to be in a rather carnal and sexual nature. And then as a result of this, his concubine is given to these individuals, and they assault her, and ultimately in the end she's killed. And the Levite's response to this horrific, insane thing that's happened in the nation of Israel is he dismembers the body of this woman, this concubine, into 12 pieces, and he sends those 12 pieces to the heads of the tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. And it was intended to cause a deep reaction and a deep desire for justice. It was intended to call all those people to, hey, this needs to be dealt with. And I think that we're at one of those moments where we see something like that happening in our culture. And the challenge with that is that when we see something horrific like this happen, these two major events, then the impulse in us is to desire justice and to try to take justice into our own hands. And I think that this is the moment that we're at, that there's a real concern that we're going to see people, regular civilians, want to take justice into their own hands. And this is where it gets very dangerous. And this is where we Christians especially need to make sure that we recognize that God is the one who takes vengeance. Now, that's not to say that there ought not to be justice taken that brings vengeance here upon earth. That is certainly the case, but that is the job of the magistrate. And it reminds me of Romans chapter 13. Romans 13, Paul says, "Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment upon themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of authority? Do what is good, and you will have the praise of the same. For he," this is talking about the minister of God in the civil political arena, the magistrate, "This individual is God's minister to you for good, but if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain." This is key. Those who have the call to rule as magistrates, to rule in the area of civil justice and law, they have the sword. They have the ability to execute vengeance, to bring wrath upon injustice, upon evil. And they do not bear the sword in vain. He is God's minister to avenge and execute wrath on him who practices evil. This is so key, and this is something that I think we have missing in our culture right now. And there are all kinds of different reasons that people could put forward for why this is missing in our culture, but it's clearly missing in our culture that those who are supposed to be exercising justice, who are standing in this place as the avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil, that has not been taking place. We have not been dealing in a just way with injustice, with crime. And so as a result, it makes it more likely that evil things are going to abound. And when evil things abound and the minister of justice, who is supposed to be the one who's executing justice, is not doing what they are supposed to be doing in that instance, then you will have people who are compelled to take these things into their own hands. And this is where we are at this moment. And this is my concern. Because there are many people who are saying that we have been living through what might be like a cold civil war. And it's almost like you're waiting for the spark to ignite it into a hot war. And my hope and my prayer is that we never see that. I don't want to see that at all. And there should be nobody in our culture that wants to see that. But we are in this cultural moment where, I live in Southern California, and during this time of year, as we move through the next few months, things are very dry, and we have the opportunity and the possibility for wildfires. It's like the fuel is perfect. The conditions can be perfect, especially when we get winds out of the east, what we call Santa Ana winds here. It becomes a very dangerous climate. And everything is just right for there to be a massive fire. And I think that we're in that situation. And it comes down to the fact that our culture has not done a good job of dealing with injustice and dealing with crime in a proper way. And so the minister of God to you for good, the one who does not bear the sword in vain, who is supposed to execute wrath on him who practices evil, in a lot of ways that has not been happening. And so when there have been lesser crimes that have not been dealt with, then it causes more crime to happen. It's inevitable. And if when more crime happens, it comes to something like this, then you are in a situation where the average person feels like, well, the minister of God for good who's supposed to execute wrath on him who practices evil isn't doing that, so I'm going to take it into my own hands. And that's where we're at right now. That's my concern. And I hope that we don't go down that path. But it certainly seems like it's possible. I hope that we find a way to move away from that. Because things can go bad very quickly. Something to think about. I'll see you next time.